Look at this, man. These are the comments from the Pista video. And I said Pista because people were pissed at the fact that I pronounced Pista, instead of, how do you say it? Pista. I don't know. Apparently, you said how I always say you can afford it, and most of you can't, so I get to say it like Pista, you know? Anyways, the comments here, pretty disgruntled YouTubers here. We have one saying here, my shirt stretch bothers him a lot. Another one seems to have to say, I have to turn the volume off. I want to see the car. You can smell the jealousy like coming through the screen. Like you gotta love it when you're looking at other people's shit on YouTube and you can't afford it. It gives me the chills. My nipples get hard and then I think, because you see, like in my life, I look at this, and then after looking at YouTube, I see this, and you don't have this. You have nothing. You're sitting in front of a computer. For those of you that do have something, follow me. Let's review the Pista, Pusta, who cares? Come on. All right, guys, so welcome back. And listen, first off, to be fair, I'm always all about giving you detailed, in-depth reviews from an owner's perspective of some of the greatest exotic cars that I've ever owned. And this one, I'm going to say this, I'm going to start the conversation this way. This is my absolute most favorite exotic of all time. Now, it's important to clarify that I use words very carefully here in my reviews. And when I say it's my favorite exotic of all time, it doesn't mean it is the best exotic of all time. And sometimes I feel like when we watch reviews, people have all types of nice things to say, and that whatever car they're reviewing is the best car they've ever driven. But reality is, there's a lot of differences between this is my favorite car and this is the best car. Now, if you've watched some of my previous reviews, you know how fond I am of the Performante Spider as well as the Performante Coupe as one of the best exotics ever made, because it embodied the brand of Lamborghini so well, and it did such a great job at basically getting the driver involved in the experience. So the experience was next level, and that's why I felt the Performante was so good. But today, we're going to look at the Pista and why this is the Mona Lisa of exotic cars right now. And it's just absolutely stunning. I mean, let's just take a moment here. I'm gonna give you a moment to just look at it without me in the shop. See, like, look at it, get closer to it, try to think about it. It's coming at you. It's this hot chick. It's got beautiful tits. It's coming at you. You feel good about it. Okay, you feeling good about it? Did you already almost like cream your pants? If you didn't, come over here and let's look at it closer. So there are some variations to this car from the 488, because I'm a big believer that the 488 is one of the worst and ugliest Ferraris ever built. Now, I'm gonna tell you what I liked about the 488, the headlight. And I'm glad that that's about the only thing they left of the 488 here. So the headlight is basically all you get. There are some significant changes, and I think the biggest one right away that I just love about this car more than the 488 is the front. And I'll tell you why. Because the 488 has this weird thing going on here where there's a hole between the front spoiler, and this car basically covers that, and it doesn't have that at all. And instead, it creates this scoop that basically comes all the way down through here. And I'm not even talking about downforce. We're talking about just design here. Beautiful carbon fiber, beautiful mesh grille, incredible front end, and more importantly, beautiful, beautiful functional hood, right? Still leaves also a lot of space inside to actually use. On the front, I think this is the single greatest improvement over the crappy 488. Now, let's take it to the side. This car is fitted with no VTEC suspension, slightly lowered, no VTEC spacers, no VTEC exhaust. You can see here the stance doesn't sit like a bus anymore. Now, however, this factory car sits a little bit higher. This isn't lowered that much. This tells you that basically it is still better than a factory car. If we looked at my F8, which you'll see in the other review, you'll see the difference from a factory car. Lower than original, but still too high. It needs no VTEC to come down. Now, on the side, you have two wheel options, basically carbon fiber or these. I love carbon, and they're $20,000+ option. It's worth it to do the carbon fiber wheels if you're collecting the car, not worth it if you're driving. The damage to the car, way too much on the possibility. This car also comes equipped with painted shields, super cool feature, where basically these are painted instead of the actual ugly animal thing that's basically here. Upgraded Capristo carbon mirrors, upgraded carbon door handles to match the rest of the carbon theme on the car. This is the rest of the carbon is all OEM. This car basically has all carbon options, so anything that could have been carbon here is basically carbon. Really, really pretty stance. Now, one of the things we follow the rear now, we see some quick differences with the 488. First, an all carbon engine bay, 2 plexiglass here, much, much better from a functional and cleaning standpoint. And on the back, we really have this beautiful, I mean, absolutely beautiful rear end with lots of carbon fiber and of course the carbon middle. I will mention something for those of you that are buying a car, something you may want to notice, especially if you're going to lower the car like this one is. This piece, when lowered, gets really close to the ground. You can't see it, but really deep behind is like probably this close to the ground. It's worse than the Ford GT. It's very likely that even at high speeds on the highway where you're kind of going up and down bumps, you could be scraping and cracking this. This is a $39,000 piece. And from what I've seen anywhere, you can't really buy them separately, you know? So this is basically the piece, and it's extremely expensive if you crack it. I will say that if you plan to daily drive the car, or if you're speccing the car, get one with the plastic bottom. I know I'm gonna never say that again because I hate plastic, but it just makes sense. And or buy the carbon one, buy a plastic one, install that, and basically put the carbon one when you're gonna sell it because it's gonna crack and the cost basis is gonna be astronomical. You see the carbon follows through here. This is a cool option. Again, everything is basically, you know, a la carte here. The stripe is of course not vinyl either. It's part of the paint scheme. So you follow the car over and again, you have a beautiful, one of the prettiest Ferraris and my favorite car of all time design-wise. And I think this is one of the things that I guess gets with me with design, and then we're going to talk about interior and performance and everything else. This is just very pretty, but it's just something you don't expect from Ferrari. Like, it's not what Ferrari is about. It's not red, and in its best and prettiest configuration, in my opinion, it's not a red car. Most Pistas I've seen on the market that are actually incredible specs. I don't care that people think they're the best or not, that's subjective, but every one of these incredible cars has basically become what they are on one basis alone, that they're not the basic red on tan. And one of the things that's huge here, especially for Ferrari, is that I feel like if the best of your brand doesn't really look like your brand, then you got to start seeing how much your user base has changed, and more importantly, how much you've swayed away from what your brand is about. So we're going to go on the road with this, and we'll see if it really stands true to what Ferrari is, because this is a turbo engine, very different from, again, the naturally aspirated 458, very similar to the 488, which I said, again, was one of the worst. So we will see how much this changes, etc. But I feel like right now, this is basically a design play more than anything. It's just absolutely beautiful. Now, let's take a look on the inside. So let's take a look inside the car. Well, it would help if it was open. This is what happens when you're Persian. You don't know when things are open. That's why we're always like known as criminals, you know? We try to open cars that aren't open. So you press a button in case you're on YouTube and you never owned the Ferrari key. Oh, by the way, this is a Novitec little thing. You press it and it opens your exhaust. Something peasants will know nothing about in the long term, because you would have to have a $10,000 exhaust system to have a valve in it. One day you'll know. Anyways, so let's open this. Let's take a look here. The inside of the car, all carbon door, big deal. Carbon buckets, very nice. Interior, all suede. These are basically what makes the Pista so incredible and awesome. This is a tailor-made interior, so you're getting the kind of saddle-ish baseball glove brown with the yellow highlights to match the little side stripes in the hood. Striking. I mean, just the design is absolutely unbelievable. The fit and finish is spectacular. The craftsmanship is amazing. From the floor mats, look at how nice they look compared to the SVJ. Like, you have these metal floor mats, but they look fantastic. Every piece of this car is just spec'd in a way that is so pretty. And this is what I guess differentiates this car from an SVJ. It's not brutal, it's not just fast, it's pretty. So it does it elegantly, and I think that is what makes this so amazing and why I love it so much as a car. And I wanted to kind of show it to you so you kind of could understand it, see it, and basically kind of experience it. Now, let's look in the trunk real quick. So in the trunk, you can actually see there's really adequate space here. You basically have more space under here and you have space here, which is really bad if you think about it. Like, it's not a lot of space, but it's a lot more than the SVJ, which is what makes it, I guess, better. And here you can really see the carbon work in all of the tub here, which is really, really nice as well. I mean, in general, functional, usable, especially because there's 0 glove box compartment inside the car. Now I want to also show you the engine bay, because it's just interesting to see on just based on how pretty it is, you know. Super light, again, because it's plexiglass, but here, look at all the carbon. This is one of the things that I think is so big on Ferrari, especially when you look through this glass, because it's so wide. The SVJ doesn't have any holes, so even if you don't have a carbon motor, it doesn't matter. However, on the Aventador S, you have the glass bonnet, so you really have to see the motor. Here in this case, you really can see this. It's absolutely beautiful. I think it is incredibly beautiful, and it just continues with the theme of like this elegance and this class and the finer details. And I think that's really where the Pista plays a very different role than the Lamborghini brand. It's elegance and details over brutal force. And it does it effortlessly. And so let's get on the road, let's drive the car, and let's see if it drives as good as it looks. And we're going to lower the volume here so you don't have to hear me with my music. So let's just actually cut that off. Overall, really, is it any different from anything? Not really. It's just like a 488. Lots of great trim, lots of great design features. It's beautiful, no issues at all. Just a very pretty car inside out. You have your basic LaFerrari style central option here. The completely useless radio feature and the completely useless VDA display here. Very impossible to use. Climate control still good. Still uses the sticky buttons, different from the F8, which is newer now and has the all plastic Ford Focus option, which is basically you're paying $5,000 to get plastic on site. But this, at least since this car won't really sit in the sun, it doesn't matter. So let's go for a drive. We're going to put it in manual because no well-respected man would ever drive a Ferrari or Lamborghini in automatic unless you're a pussy, right? And for those of you who are the pussies, it is nice, very nice. So let's go for a quick drive. We're gonna put the windows down a little bit just so you can hear the car. You know, very easy driving car, very different from the SVJ because it's elegant and it's usable. And I think that's cool. I think that's very, very cool that it's so usable. Turbo car, of course, so you don't get a lot of the power, but it's very tail happy. Having driven it for now about a week and a half, actually 2 weeks now, it's very, very, very tail happy. And you know, a lot of power, like a lot of power. This car is not tuned. It does not have any aftermarket upgrades minus just an exhaust. It still retains the catalytic converters. So it is basically nothing different than the factory exhaust, which open valves would be basically like just opening a valve and having a straight piped exhaust. So very fast on a straightaway, tail happy a little bit. You got to be careful taking off, especially if you're taking a turn out of a street or something. But otherwise, right off the top, it's just magnificent. Now the view is great. I just saw a 488 pass by, like those the guy who couldn't afford the Pista. So we don't like that guy. But anyways, so you had a lot of view here, really good view of everything happening, which is one of the big differences from the SVJ to this, is really the usability of this. This drives very much like a Performante in the sense that it's usable, meaning you can technically drive it and not worry. Now, it's not so usable from an aesthetic standpoint because the carbon fiber rear diffuser is so close to the ground, and it does have a lift, but it's annoying. It also has the camera system, so this car came installed with telemetry, so basically you can use all the cameras around the car, but it also records your lap times. You can plug in your little USB and it basically reads that for in case you're going out. But again, inside, we talked about this in the earlier video, there is no compartment other than this shitty net in the back to put stuff. And it's really hard to put your stuff there because it looks ugly. And when you look at the car from the outside and you have your registration there, it's ugly. So you're gonna kind of leave it in the trunk. Not a big problem. You rarely get pulled over with a car like this, except for people giving you thumbs up. But, you know, cool shit in general. I mean, Really nice car. All right, let's go for a little bit more of a drive and really see. And here you are, you know, good brakes, no different really than a 488. I don't see a difference in braking. Handling is significantly improved from the 488. A lot less floaty, you know, so you're getting a much better drive, much more exciting drive. I think that's the right word to use here. Is the excitement for the drive is significantly better. Now, you know, I said this on the Huracan versus the Performante, and I wanted to bring that comparison back because I think it's really important to understand what I was trying to say there. When you're thinking about, for example, when you think about the Huracan and you say, oh, well, you know, it's all plastic, it's all shit, and you've heard me piss on that. We saw the Evo get better. We know it's a little bit better. It's still shit. But the basic core Huracan is a marketable and sellable car. The Performante, while on the surface may seem like, oh, it's only an LA system. Oh, it's only 30 more horsepower. Oh, it's only got a carbon forged wing. Oh, it's only got Alcantara interior. It's basically the same, just a little better. It basically takes what it should have been and says, if you're willing to pay the money, we'll give you what we should have built to begin with. But it's not as marketable because it's more exciting, but not everybody's going to want to play that excitement in the 300K range versus 200K range. So it's different, right? This is the same thing. Like, you can buy a really nice 488 for like 170 to like 190 grand, right? It's really not that much money. But this car was $550,000. And even if you're getting a discount, you're getting it at like, let's say 450, 480 if you're like a master negotiator. It's still like almost like it's double what a 488 is. So, you know, and I mean the power is holy shit. It's crazy. Like it's like amazing. It feels amazing. It drives amazing. It looks amazing. It's spectacular. But here's the argument again. Like, the Performante was used roughly about 70 to 100,000 more than the Huracan. Now, when we compare this to the 488, this is like 2 point something times more than the 488. So the question is it truly better than a 488? Would you prefer to own two 488s or one of these? Well, it all depends on garage space. And I know it sounds kind of weird, but if you're a normal person, you basically have, if you have a nice house, you have a 4-car garage, maybe a lift, so you can put 4 or 5 cars in your house. You're going to want to put, and here's a clown here, let's see what the clown has to say.
Make me a millionaire.
You got to put in the work, man.
Huh?
You got to put in the work. Why are you asking?
What? I can't hear you.
You got to put in the work.
Yeah, I put in the work.
All right, then why are you asking me? Fucking cartoons, I swear to God. Every corner there's a cartoon.
What do you say?
He said, make me a millionaire.
I heard. What do you say when you left?
I said, you got to do the work. He goes, I put in the work, homie. I'm like, all right, well, yeah. I was like, why are you asking me? It's on the fucking car. It says I create millionaires, so fucking look it up. Why are you talking to me? That's the problem with people these days. I know we're not going into a fucking motivational video, but I tell people all the time. I said, put in the work. The guy's like, hey, make me a millionaire. I'm like, all right, well, you putting in the work? Yeah. I'm like, how many of the books you read? None. How many times you go to the IG to see, click things, learn something? I don't do that. So how you putting in the work? You ain't doing shit. You're asking people for handouts again. So anyways, back to the concept of what I was talking about. Is it worth 2.5 times a 488? And the answer is, if you have the garage space for something special, then you put this in your garage. If you don't have the garage space for something special and you have the garage space to just put a car you can drive, then I don't think it's worth 2.5 times a 488. But then you compare it to other cars in the 500K mark, you know, like what else can you buy for $500,000? Well, there isn't really much in that space other than the SVJ and the Aventadors. And it's remarkably prettier and remarkably better than an Aventador in every way. it's not as true to Ferrari as an SVJ is to Lamborghini, but it's really good and it's really special. And I think the best part about it is it makes you feel special. And I think that's the point of every car. So if you want to experience cars like this, and again, hear more about my thoughts as an owner, not as a YouTuber, because I don't make my money on YouTube, one of the things you can actually do is put in your comments. Let me know what cars you'd like to see me buy next, and what are the opportunities you'd like to see me discuss in terms of the car market. And of course, like this video, subscribe. Thanks a lot to all of you that have supported us so far and gotten us this place in terms of just helping bring real, relevant, and non-biased reviews. But I said earlier today, I did say this was my favorite exotic of all time. And I want to end it with saying basically that while it is my favorite exotic of all time, I think under $1 million because of its beauty, I will argue that it is far from the best exotic car of all time for one simple reason. And that is that the Pista is very expensive for what it is. And I think the only way to enjoy a Pista is in this dollar range, meaning it's not a $400K car, it's a $500, $520K car or up, you know? That's where the leverage is on this car of how beautiful it is. And I think that, to me anyways, I think a car of this magnitude should be spec'd out like this. But then the question remains, you know, is it really the best car for that dollar range? And I think it's going to be hard for me to say this because people aren't going to like hearing it, but the Performante is still a better bang for the buck and all-around excitement factor than this for less money. You can buy one for like $270 now. And the SVJ, you can get one for like $500, for example. That's still, I don't think it's better than this, but I think it's still a better value proposition than this for the money. So, my favorite of all time, far from the best exotic of all time. Again, the honesty is brutal. Like it, hate it, leave it in the comments. I'll catch you in the next video.